Okay, so this time we're looking at the last three types of organisations: not-for-profit organisations, charities and cooperatives. These will then finish off everything we've done with the different types of businesses, sole traders, partnerships, companies and so on. So we'll start off with non-profit organisations. These are set up not to make a profit for shareholders, but to use their profits for a cause. And they're similar to a social enterprise, which is what we looked at last lesson. But whereas a social enterprise is in effect a business that then decides to do something with its profits, a non-profit organisation is usually a charity, a trust, or trade union, or even a cooperative. And they are run very differently. A social enterprise is run like a business. These are governed by very different things. However, unlike a social enterprise, these are normally set up like a company, so the charity, the trust, etc., and given limited liability, because as you should hopefully now know, that limited liability protects the business, or in this case the charity or whatever we're talking about, from having everything taken away from it if something goes wrong. And obviously with these types of organisations, it's important to protect the charity. Talking of charities then, these are a form of non-profit organisation, but remember they're never there to make a profit, or even attempt to be run like any form of business. Normally a charity is set up to benefit education, religion or a public interest group, with the other main difference being that charities are voluntary. So the biggest expense for a business is its wage bill. So charity work is all done voluntary. People volunteer to work in shops, collect money, deliver leaflets, whatever, in the aim being that they'll help this charity get their message across. So, like the other types of business, they are covered by law. You don't need to know all the ins and outs of this, but the Charities Act covers charities in the same way that the Companies Act covers companies. And like a company is registered at Companies House, a charity has to be registered with the Charity Commission. And you'll see that because on paperwork you'll often see a charity number, and then it's I think it's like a 9-digit number, and if you were to ring up the Charities Commission, you could check that that charity was real, and your money was actually being used for the cause that it states. Now I certainly wouldn't make a note of all of this, but this is lifted directly from the Charities Act that says basically a charity has to do one or more of the following. Okay, so it has to help move forward education, religion, health, community development, arts, sports, human rights, or it has to protect people from poverty, or protect animals, or to help those people in need. It has to do one of those. Okay, it obviously can do more than that, but if it's not doing anything on that list, then the Charity Commission may take away its charitable status. Okay, moving on then to a cooperative. Now most of you, I'm sure, you will recognise cooperatives from the actual stores, the supermarkets, the co-op. But it's called that for a reason. It's run in this way. So a cooperative is an organisation that is owned and run for the mutual benefit of the owners. The profits of a cooperative are shared out between the members depending on how much time, effort or goods the member has put into the organisation, not how much money they've invested in it, like a company. So unlike other types of businesses where you might have one or a few owners who put money into the business and then the business is run, a cooperative works with everyone within the organisation. So if it's a suppliers cooperative, all the suppliers of carrots work together, and then how much money the carrots are sold on for is then split depending by how much carrots you put in. Now the supermarkets, which is where you're going to get the most confusion from with this, are worked in a similar way. You may have heard your parents talking about the dividend, and basically the more money you spend in the cooperative, the higher your dividend is likely to be from them, and then you can use that to spend in there. But it's also helping, normally the co-op helps very local suppliers. So in this area we have the East of England cooperative that brings together suppliers from the East of England to help help them sell their goods. Okay. The other type of cooperative is a worker cooperative. Now this is owned and run by the employees of the business, and then they get a share of the profits made by the business. So unlike the East of England cooperative, where that's bringing suppliers and that together, you get some businesses that are owned and run purely by the workers. You can't own part of that business and not work there, which is obviously what happens with lots of public limited companies. So each member gets one vote when it comes to decision making, and that means every person has a say in what happens to the company in the future. Now, the biggest example of that you're probably aware of is the John Lewis partnership that owns Waitrose and John Lewis. Every worker there owns the business, and they are entitled to vote on how that business is run, how the profits are used, and they all get a share of the profits. So John Lewis, the more money they can make from the sales, the larger the share of the profit they're likely to receive. There is another one in the UK, Sumer Whole Foods, which is more of a supplier, so you might not necessarily be aware of that, but certainly the John Lewis partnership, although it's called the partnership, is a worker cooperative where everyone owns the business. Now, just like sole traders, partnerships, private and public limited companies have their uses, these other forms of organisations, social enterprises from last week, not-for-profit charities and cooperatives, all have their place within the high street. They all provide different things, and it allows us to have that choice when it comes to buying goods and spending our money. Choosing the appropriate one is the difficult thing, and obviously in your examinations that's normally where you have to offer advice, so bear that in mind. Okay, so that's it. You know what to do next. You need to go and complete the quiz. I've already assigned it to the group. Make sure that you've got notes on these 3 final types of organisations. We're nearly finished the unit, and it will soon be time for your end of unit test. Okay, see you later.